Friends, welcome to today's self-transformation. These sessions are all about transforming the body, the mind, and the soul. They are all about increasing wellness naturally, making small but sustainable changes to our lifestyle, treating the root cause of all diseases through lifestyle changes, rather than treating diseases with medication one by one as they come. Peace, happiness, and longevity may be one of the benefits of these lifestyle changes. Today's session, we are going to start off with the well-being session. I will now share my screen. The topic of today's wellness and longevity session is fasting is the best medicine. Langanam param aushadam. Langanam param aushadam. Fasting is the best medicine. Our disclaimer, we are not medical people. However, our research is based on the work of medical professionals, and this presentation in no way implies that this is a universal cure, as each individual is unique. Now, based on the latest scientific research, as well as the blue zones, where we have the world's longest lived people and their lifestyle, there are 8 pillars of wellness and longevity. The first pillar is fasting, the best medicine. The second pillar is eat to beat disease. The third pillar is meditation, the longevity pill. The fourth pillar is sleep, the silent healer. The fifth pillar is breath, your superpower. The sixth pillar is move more, live more. The seventh pillar is socialize to optimize. And the eighth pillar is find purpose, find fulfillment. Today, we start with the first pillar, being fasting, the best medicine. So instead of eat to beat disease, today our session is all about don't eat to beat disease. Fasting, unlocking the hidden secrets of voluntarily withholding food. And what does Rumi say? Rumi says, fasting is the first principle of medicine. Fast and see the strength of the spirit reveal itself. Fasting is hitting a reset button to your body. So let us first of all understand what fasting is not. It isn't calorie restriction. Extreme calorie restriction leads to bodily stress and protein breakdown. It isn't starvation. Starvation is the involuntary lack of nutrition. Fasting is just a normal body process. Up until 12,000 years ago, all humans got their food by hunting, gathering, or fishing. As foragers, they would fast until they found, caught, or killed their food. There was no breakfast upon waking or leftovers for lunch. They ate opportunistically, consuming anything they could get their hands on. During periods without food, the body evolved to tap into fat stores for energy. For the majority of human history, people ate 1 or 2 meals per day. The current time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting eating patterns like the 16-8 or OMAD, 1 meal a day, mimic this ancient phenomenon. Despite its recent surge in popularity, fasting is a practice that dates back centuries and plays a central role in many cultures and religions. Followers of Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Taoism, Jainism, and Hinduism have observed fasting for centuries with a great benefit to millions of people. There is no scientific basis for our current 3 meals a day plus snacks eating pattern. In fact, our DNA has not evolved to eat for prolonged periods of time. I'm now going to talk about 2 experiments. The first one is, does obesity and metabolic diseases result from a high-fat diet or disruption of metabolic cycles? So the scientists took 2 groups of mice. Both of them were fed a high-fat diet. One group was given food at all the time, and the other group was given food only within an 8-hour period. However, both the groups of mice consumed equal calories. So mice under the time-restricted feeding consume equivalent calories from the high-fat diet, yet they are protected against obesity, hyperinsulinemia, inflammation, and have improved motor coordination. So the important thing is the time-restricted feeding. So the conclusion of this study was, when one eats is as important as what one eats. We have seen a lot of news about calorie restriction and longevity. So the second study was done with the question, what is more important, calorie restriction or calorie restriction plus fasting? So again, 2 groups of mice, both, and the mice were actually brothers. They were split into 2 groups. One group was fed all the food, and the other group was fed only 60% of that. The group which was fed 60% lived 40% for 40% longer and was healthier. So one would assume that if you feed the mice only 60%, but throughout the day, then it would result in a longer life and being more healthy. However, by doing this, the mice were thinner, but they did not live longer. You need to feed them 60%, but in a shorter feeding window. And what does one of the longevity scientists tell us, Dr. Nir Barzilai from the Albert Einstein College of Medicine? He says, you need fasting to upregulate the mechanism against aging. If we look at everything today, we live in a world of abundance of food, which has resulted in us eating all the time. Dr. Pradeep Jamnadas, He's a Florida-based consultant cardiologist with more than 30 years of experience. He has a keen interest in preventative health. He has performed thousands of interventional procedures during his career. You probably wouldn't expect a cardiologist to tell you that not eating is the key to better health. Yet he prescribes fasting to his patients. His patients experience benefits ranging from weight loss to reversing diabetes, lowering blood pressure and cholesterol to increasing longevity. His patients not only talk about the astounding difference fasting is making to their lives, but also the ripple effect that changing their beliefs and habits around food on their mental well-being as well as the rest of their lives. His educational videos on fasting and heart health have been viewed by hundreds of thousands on his YouTube channel. So what is fasting? It is the voluntary and complete abstinence from food while maintaining fluid status. In general, most types of fasts are performed over 24 to 72 hours. Intermittent fasting, on the other hand, involves cycling between periods of feeding and fasting, ranging from a few hours to a few days at a time. Fasting is a time of body healing and rejuvenation, that is autophagy. So let's now talk about autophagy. In 2016, the Japanese cell biologist Yoshinori won the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine for his discovery of autophagy. Autophagy is the body's way of cleaning out damaged cells in order to regenerate newer, healthier cells. Auto means self and phagy means eat. So the literal meaning of autophagy is self-eating. The purpose of autophagy is to remove debris and self-regulate the body back to optimal smooth function. Autophagy is best known as the body's way of turning the clock back and creating younger cells. Autophagy is protective against infection and cancer. Fasting is known to trigger autophagy. So now let's compare what is the difference between feeding and fasting. In feeding, we primarily burn sugar. In fasting, we actually burn fat. In feeding, there is a risk of weight gain because we may be taking more calories. In fasting, we lose weight as there is no calorie intake. In feeding, there is no rest to the gut, whereas in fasting, we rest the gut. In feeding, we may proliferate the wrong gut flora. In fasting, we actually turn on autophagy. In feeding, if we are eating the standard American diet, SAD, we will end up with a shortened lifespan. With fasting, we will have a lifespan advantage. Now, let us look at the hour-by-hour benefits of fasting. When we start a fast, within the first 4 to 8 hours, our blood sugars and insulin levels will drop. When it reaches about 12 hours, the digestive system rests. The healing process begins. the human growth hormone begins to increase. Glucagon is released to balance blood sugars. When we fast for 16 hours, the body starts to ramp up the fat burning. When we reach 18 to 20 hours, autophagy begins. Ketones are released, and human growth hormone starts to skyrocket. When we reach 36 hours, autophagy increases by 300%. If we do a 2-day fast and reach 48 hours, the human growth hormone increases by a staggering 500%. Cellular regeneration starts, and inflammation in the body starts to go down. If we do 54 hours, insulin sensitivity increases. And if someone fasts for 3 days, which is 72 hours, the autophagy will peak. There are significant benefits to fasting. So now let us look at the health benefits of fasting. Fasting promotes good health and reduces medication requirements. Fasting promotes weight loss. Fasting improves heart function. Fasting increases fat metabolism. Fasting improves glucose tolerance. It reduces inflammation. It stimulates brain function. It boosts the immune system. It induces autophagy, and it helps prevent cancer. So what would be a simple way to start? A simple way to start is, we are fasting, all of us, at night when we go to bed until the morning. So why don't we just start extending the overnight fast by 2 hours, maybe for 3 days a week? Once you are comfortable, you can extend it out to 16/8, 16 hours fast and feeding within an 8-hour window. If you can tolerate the 16/8 for a couple of days a week, why don't you increase that to 5 days a week? The ultimate goal would be 16/8 every day of the week. Now let's talk about stem cells. Stem cells are undifferentiated cells that turn into specific cells as the body needs them. Stem cells originate from 2 main sources: adult body tissues and embryos. Day-to-day living means the body is constantly renewing its tissues. In some parts of the body, such as the gut and the bone marrow, stem cells regularly divide to produce new body tissues for maintenance and repair. Stem cells are present inside different types of tissues. Scientists have found stem cells in the tissues, including the brain, the bone marrow, blood and blood vessels, skeletal muscles, skin, and the liver. Today, we can get stem cell injection. It costs a lot of money, and the result is likely to be.
જોયો ફોટો હવે આ જો ફોટામાં ગ્રીન ને આ ટ્રાઉઝર્સ છે બ્લેક ઈ તો ડેનિમ નો ટ્રાઉઝર્સ છે ને.
Sorry about that. It costs a lot of money to inject stem cells, and the result is likely to be that only a very minute amount is likely to be successful. Fasting is the fastest way to increase your stem cells. Researchers have found that even 24 hours of fasting can boost stem cell function even if you are older. There is a distinct connection between fasting and stem cells. So last but not least, some food for thought. Fasting helps you enjoy the benefits of autophagy as a cellular mechanism for rejuvenation. Fasting is linked to longevity. It is to your benefit not to eat. Extending the overnight fast is easy and effective without adverse side effects. Thank you. Before we go on to the meditation session, is there anyone who would like to share any of their experiences if they have tried intermittent fasting? Or if anyone has any questions?
It's Vijay here.
Yes.
So whenever we actually hear about fasting, there is a saying there, you should have breakfast like a prince and lunch like a king and dinner like a pauper. So if we have, and whenever I speak to the people, even in the NHS, they would say you must not skip your breakfast. And you are saying that our DNA are not designed or evolved to have three times of food or feeding. Yeah.
So the first thing is the saying is have breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. The fact is, it is a myth, and it is actually wrong, because first of all, when we wake up in the morning, the digestive, according to Ayurveda and everyone's experience, the digestive juices are not ready to function. We have a circadian clock within our bodies, and all the organs actually need rest plus rejuvenation to function properly. So in reality, we do not need to eat all the time, and we shouldn't be eating all the time. And that is, eating all the time is the result and has resulted in everyone having so many diseases. So if we look at the current scientific evidence, for example, Sachin Panda from the Salk Institute in California, he has done a lot of studies, not only in mice, but now in humans, and a lot of chronic illnesses have been actually reversed, and some people have cured their disease just by eating in an 8-hour window. They have not followed any specific diet. There are various institutes globally who actually offer 2-3 weeks fasting. So you would go and actually stay at their center under medical supervision, and they reverse tons of chronic illnesses. So that saying that you have breakfast like a king and lunch like a prince and etc. is completely wrong. And whoever has been fasting regularly can vouch that on the contrary, they feel more energetic, they have more energy, they are less reliant on sugar crashes, the mind gets disciplined, it is easy to eat within an 8-10 hour window, and it is very, very beneficial for health. Is there anyone else who would like to share anything? Okay, we will now go on to the second part of our today's session, which is meditation. I will share my screen again. So before we start our meditation, let us break our current breathing pattern. When we break our breathing pattern, the spine 175 neurons in the prebot C of our brain stem inform the brain's control center that something has changed. So our brain becomes alert to the new situation. This breaks the flow, and we are either ready to react or to respond to the new situation. Breathing is central to our life, and it is important to learn to control our breathing, to break the breathing pattern on a regular basis. Whilst we are listening to this meditation session, please take deep and full breaths slowly and exhale long and very, very slow breaths. This will help us break the breathing pattern. Today, we are going to talk about meditation impacting the vagus nerve, or the 10th cranial nerve. The vagus nerve connects the brainstem to the rest of the body. Vagus means wanderer in Latin, showing how the nerve wanders all over the body and reaches the various organs. The vagus nerve is heavily involved in the parasympathetic side. So what does the vagus nerve do? It decreases blood pressure and heart rate. It helps us with calmness, relaxation, and digestion. It helps us increase the wait and watch attitude. As a result, the vagus nerve also helps with defecation, urination, and sexual arousal. Other vagus nerve effects include communication between the brain and the gut. The vagus nerve delivers information from the gut to the brain. Relaxation with deep breathing. The vagus nerve communicates with the diaphragm. With deep breaths, a person feels more relaxed. Decreasing inflammation. The vagus nerve sends an anti-inflammatory signal to the other parts of the body. Helps with fear management. The vagus nerve sends information from the gut to the brain, which is linked to dealing with stress, anxiety, and fear. Hence the saying, gut feeling. These signals help a person to recover from stressful and scary situations. We'll now look at a diagram of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic division of our bodies. With the sympathetic, it's the fight and flight mechanism. With the parasympathetic, it's the rest and digest. And that is what the vagus nerve helps us with. We look at the vagal tone. Vagal tone is an internal biological process that represents the activity of the vagus nerve. This vagal tone is passed on from mother to child. Mothers who are depressed, anxious, angry during their pregnancies have lower vagal activity. And unfortunately, once they give birth to their child, the newborn also has low vagal activity, low dopamine and serotonin levels. So now the question is, how can we increase the vagal tone? When your breathing becomes slow and deep, the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, slows down. Your parasympathetic nervous system is now active. Your vagal tone increases. The parasympathetic nervous system turns on the rest and digest mode. What slows down your breathing? Meditation slows down the breathing. By slowing down your breathing, meditation lowers the harmful effects of the stress hormone cortisol on your body. It lowers your heart rate and blood pressure within 5 minutes. It helps you cope with the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. It improves your core muscle stability. It builds up your body's ability to tolerate intense exercise. It lowers your chances of injuring or wearing out your muscles. It slows your rate of breathing so that it expends less energy. It removes stress, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and sleeplessness. It improves respiratory conditions. It helps in irritable bowel syndrome. It upgrades your immune system. By slowing down your breathing, meditation helps feeling less pain. It removes negative emotions. It raises your attention. It protects from the silent killer chronic inflammation. It boosts blood flow. It increases energy level. It detoxifies the body. It develops better posture. And it aids in digestion. It also stimulates the lymphatic system and enhances your sex life. So what does meditation mean? Meditation is to be in the present, in the here and now, focusing on a singular point. Meditation is focusing on a singular point. It increases the vagal tone. Meditation increases the vagal tone, helps maintain the length of the telomeres that protect our DNA, results in non-judging awareness, positively affects the brain's networks, positively enhances positivity during pregnancy, increases quality sleep, creates alternative circulation pathways and new blood vessels. It achieves the 4-step breathing to live longer and healthier. It trains the 175 neurons to adopt the wait and watch policy. It teaches us to respond and not to react. It controls the release of hormones. Meditation is not a religious practice. It is all about seizing the moment. It is all about you. It is all about you in the here and now. No past impressions, no future anxieties, just the present. Because we live only in the present. The past has gone, the future only arrives as the present. We all have 1440 minutes in a day. Spare only 10 minutes a day to tune with yourself, anywhere, anytime. So we will now start the meditation. I will play the music. So if everyone can close their eyes, sit in a comfortable position, and focus on one point, preferably just on the breath. Thank you. friends, slowly bring your awareness back to your bodies, and you may open your eyes. We've got 3 or 4 questions, very, very good questions. So the first question on fasting is, so what should be the ideal food intake time? Now, obviously, this is going to vary between person to person, and the reason is we are all, or most of us are still, working. Some of us have to travel to work, etc. So it is going to vary. However, the general guidance is the earlier the feeding window in the day, it is better. At least we should, for those that it might be difficult to eat earlier in the day, then at least the latest we should have our final meal should be 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, so that when we go to sleep, the food is digested. So, it could be from 8 to 4, 10 to 6, 12 to 8. So the 8-hour window could be anywhere between those times. The second question is, between what we eat and when we eat, which has more beneficial impact on our health? This is a very, very good question. The reason why I have put in as pillar number 1 for wellness and longevity as being fasting, meaning when we eat, is because fasting has done miracles on people's illnesses. It has cured them, reversed their chronic illnesses. However, it does not mean when we say what we eat. What we eat is important, because if we start eating junk food, processed foods, a lot of sugar, oil, so all of those things are going to be harmful. When we eat in a restricted time feeding window, the body then gets 18 hours to repair and rejuvenate. If we then, within the feeding window, if we still eat a lot of processed junk food, then the body has to work harder to fix the issues that we've created. So if we can actually have both together, eating the right foods, which I'm going to be taking next week, the second pillar of wellness and longevity is eat to beat disease, because food is just not energy for the body. The food that we eat makes up the cells of our body. So it is important that the food that we eat serves as water on the fire, meaning the illnesses that we have. Food should not be gasoline on the fire. So when we eat is very, very important. What we eat is important to the extent that we should not be eating foods like junk food, processed foods, sugar, oil, etc., which is doing a lot of harm to our bodies. But let's leave the topic eat to beat disease for next week. So Jaydev Bhagat again has asked is, meaning if we stay in a 4-hour eating window, which is brilliant, if you can stay in a 4-hour eating window, is it okay to be a bit more liberal in what we eat? Possibly, but if possible, it would be great if we avoided the foods which are actually injuring us. And I will cover those foods which are injuring our health next week. Having said that, a whole food plant-based diet without a time-restricted feeding window has shown to reverse and cure most of the chronic illnesses. But if we can combine both of them, a whole food plant-based diet along with a time-restricted feeding window, the body will repair and rejuvenate much faster. The final question is, what fasting regime do I follow? So I started, it was like, for many years, it was on and off, doing some intermittent fasting. But since 1st January this year, I've started a strict 16/8 fasting regime, which is start my day at 8 o'clock and finish eating by 4 o'clock. It took a week or 2 weeks to sort of get adjusted to this regime, but it is working very, very well. It has resulted in obviously losing some more weight. However, it has resulted in having a lot more energy. The exercises, the walking, everything else has become much, much easier. Does anyone like Jaydev Bhagat or Alex or anyone else want to share any of their experiences? Please feel free to unmute yourself. Or if anyone has any more questions. So thank you all for attending today's session. We continue with our self-transformation series, and we will meet next Saturday with a session on wellness, meaning it to beat disease. There will be another interesting session on the benefits of meditation, as well as a wisdom sharing session. So thank you all. Thank you very much.